The two films I will be comparing are The Bicycle Thieves and The Pursuit of Happiness. The Bicycle Thieves and The Pursuit of Happiness are both very close in similarities and differences, whether these be a part of both films or what the message the film is trying to present itself in. Some easy to identify similarities while watching both films is the father figure who is desperately trying to get a job to support his struggling family. Once they get the jobs, the key elements to completing their jobs gets taken away from them. For the Bicycle Thieves, it's the bicycles, and The Pursuit of Happiness, it's the bone density scanner. There is also the father and son bond seen throughout both films. Those similarities are very noticeable when watching. However, both films try to convey a message throughout those similarities. One similarity mentioned before is the father and son bond in both films. In The Bicycle Thieves, Antonio Ricci, the main character and father figure, has a decent bond start with his son, Bruno Ricci. It's noticeable to the viewer that Bruno looks up to his father a lot. In the clip, you can see that Bruno looks like his father and tries to act like him. Later, when Antonio is frustrated, he lashes out on Bruno, but eventually makes up to it by buying him food. This connects both Antonio and Bruno a lot closer. At the end of the film, we can see that no matter what Antonio does to try and support his family, whether it be good or bad, Bruno will always stick to his side. In The Pursuit of Happiness, Christopher Gardner, the main character and father figure, has a very strong bond already with his son Christopher. The father, Chris, loves his son very much throughout the whole film. In this clip, you can see that Chris puts in a lot of effort to support his son and his wife during that time. Later in the film, we can see multiple instances of Chris lashing out at Christopher. Eventually, Chris makes up to Christopher by getting food, shelter, and anything else he would want, because Chris is able to have a well-supported job. Chris can give Christopher a quote-unquote normal life that he always wanted for Christopher. Both of these films try to convey the theme of family and how important it is to people. It shows that even when you're in the darkest place, you still have someone supporting you throughout everything. Another similarity with the key theme in it is survivability and perseverance. Both films show each father desperately trying to support their family. In The Bicycle Thieves, we see time and time again of Antonio chasing down the bicycle thieves. Even Bruno tries to help by getting a police officer to try and track down and arrest the bicycle thief, seeing as how Antonio was also determined to get the bicycle back. The part of survivability is shown with the Ricci family needing to sell their bedsheets to afford the bicycle that would allow them to have a roof over their heads. In The Pursuit of Happiness, we see Chris time and time again try and sell one of his bone density scanners to try and earn enough money to keep his family and living conditions afloat. Survivability is seen heavily throughout the film while trying to sell his machines. There are occurrences of people stealing the machines and making Chris have to chase after them to retrieve them back. Chris and Christopher also have to end up sleeping in subway bathrooms, homeless shelters, motels, all while Chris tries to apply for being a stockbroker at a job and makes sure his son is happy throughout the whole thing. They even had to leave many things behind in order to keep moving forward with their journey. The realism in both films is very clear, and the films both portray the real issues of being broke, homeless, and especially with a family. There are also plenty of differences between the two films. On a base level, we can see that the two families are pretty different. For instance, Bruno copies Antonio's look while Christopher just wears what he prefers rather than trying to look like his father. The time both films are set is very important. The Bicycle Thieves takes place after World War II in Rome, while The Pursuit of Happiness takes place in 1981 in San Francisco. The Bicycle Thieves being in Rome is important because during this time, many poor people went to Rome in order to get cheap housing, but then it became harder to afford due to everyone moving there. The Pursuit of Happiness, San Francisco had the highest housing costs in the United States mainland during 1981. A large number of the middle class departed from San Francisco, as well as 10% of the African American citizens. Both films take place in very different times with their own struggles. The Bicycle Thieves is an Italian neorealistic film, while The Pursuit of Happiness is an American film. The endings for both films are completely opposite from each other. The Bicycle Thief takes a more realistic approach to the ending, with Antonio trying to steal someone else's bike, desperate to try to get his job back to retain his family livings. Then eventually he gets caught and thankfully doesn't go to jail based on the decision of the people. That's a lesson for Bruno to learn from Antonio. After that, the whole scandal, Antonio and Bruno walk off into the busy roadway of Rome while the text Finn fades into the screen. The Pursuit of Happiness instead makes Chris get the job as stockbroker after the interview, and after the hardship he and Christopher had to endure before, they can live in a good and decent life. Another random difference is how both wives play into situations. Another random difference is how both wives play into both situations. The wife in The Bicycle Thieves, Maria, pushes Antonio to sell the bedsheets so he can afford the bicycle to get the job. After that, she's never really present in the film ever again. The Pursuit of Happiness, however, uses the wife Linda as a way for Chris to get even more attached to his son. Linda leaves Chris after she realizes that Chris's investment of the bone density scanners and the fact that he is having a rough time trying to sell them and can't afford rent makes her leave very quickly. She sets a bad example for Christopher, however, Chris sets a much better example for Christopher instead. She makes Chris try to even harder to get the job interview and the job itself to keep Christopher happy. As for sound, both directors choose peaceful music to create suspension in their film.